The following episode is brought to you by Poison City Brewing, proud makers of Durban Poison Cannabis Lager, the beer that invites you to live your poison.
Hi Zoe,
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks yourself.
I'm so good. So I'm not.
Kakhulu. Basically, we're going to be your host namhlanje. Mina igama lami Nasiphi Zwane, and I also got then Zama Khumalo, and she's representing Ithekuconnect.
Oh, beautiful. Sabonga, guys. I'm really happy to be a part of this. Really exciting. I normally don't get to be a part of a lot of platforms, especially from back home. So every time it happens, I actually get low-key excited and nervous and happy all at once.
I think that would even be like a great point to start on, considering Uguti. You didn't mention Uguti, platforms back home. Obviously, you are from KZN, and I think right off the bat, where in KZN are you from?
So I was born and raised in Pietermaritzburg, eMbali, eWan. Very
nice.
Proud to be from there. And I lived a lot of my childhood there before having to migrate up to Gauteng and Johannesburg. But I still definitely do go home from time to time. And yeah, I'm proud of being from Pietermaritzburg and what it means to the story I get to share with people now,
Uyazi ukuthi eMaritzburg, like when I think of PMB, like I don't automatically think of like a booming music scene laphayana, like especially with a lot of like on the band side of things. With some of the bands we've spoken to, Bayashu was like up in Pietermaritzburg. The only place that used to be around to perform at was a place called Red Door. And all that there. I mean, just sort of paint a picture for me in terms of Uguti when you were on the come up and just sort of breaking into making music in Pietermaritzburg, what the music scene was like there. Was there like a thriving sort of creative space there, or is it something that was pretty scarce?
Yes, but I find that the idea of the live music scene in Pietermaritzburg seems to be one that is quite dimmed, and my come up didn't happen in Maritzburg. By the time I was looking into music a lot more seriously, I was already based in Gauteng, and that's always been seen as the place where dreams come true, But I do feel that there is a lot of history, beautiful history with regards to Maritzburg, from politics and even in music, and I am proud to be from there. I know Guti, another beautiful pianist and colleague and big brother and friend, Nduduzo Makhathini, is from Pietermaritzburg. I do find that it's not well documented, but I don't think it means nothing amazing has come from there. I think it's usually people saying, oh, I'm from there. And then you're like, oh, actually, we do have a lot of culture and a lot of history and a lot of beautiful things to offer. And I would love to explore what that means over time, and even be able to go and perform home a lot more and, just to celebrate what we have to offer in the live music space as well.
For me, it's actually the opposite of what you were saying, Nasiphi, that I know a lot of people that actually come from Pietermaritzburg and are doing like, quite a lot of things. The person that just comes off the back of my mind is DK Madlala. She's an amazing rapper and she is doing the most right now, and also one thing that is really nice about her is that she's part of the LGBTIQ plus community as well. That's something that also not a lot of people also dwell onto within the music scene as well. So it's nice to see that there's a resurgence now of artists that are coming from Pietermaritzburg particularly, or KZN as a whole, and busy, putting the flag out there. So it's really, really cool that you just mentioned that you're from PMB. We kind of like interlinked together because we just are away from
wow,
exactly,
that's so beautiful.
Exactly. So that's not too far.
Yes.
That's not too far away from Pietermaritzburg. So, it's like the universe was like, hey, I'm going to intellect all of you guys together so that you can see that there's a common bond already happening, So Yeah, it's really cool. So what I just want to know from you as to what was the step that made you say, you know what, I need to take my music and just put it out to Gauteng and just sort of like spread my roots, because quite a lot of people unfortunately don't have the finances, or people don't have enough confidence. What gave you that thing that to say that, you know what, let me just do it right now? And also in that point as well, making sure that you represent KZN, because there's also the stigma of, okay, you in Johannesburg, but now it feels like you're a Johannesburg person and you no longer remember home. How did you also make sure that you were able to still have that KZN roots within you?
Wow, those are very beautiful questions. Well, Siswam, when it comes to myself and music, my first inspiration when it came to music was being from Maritzburg, was from living in Bali, eWan specifically. And a lot of people who have the background of township, so to speak, will tell you that there's a culture of Saturday mornings being there for people to kind of love whatever it is that they're listening to and love it out loud. I had neighbors who would listen to gospel music on one end, and another neighbor who would listen to umbaqanga on the other hand, and neighbors who'd be selling alcohol, listening to kwaito. So there was always a lot of music around home, and I feel that for me was the beginning of knowing what music is, because of seeing firsthand what it means to people, and that it's the soundtrack to people's lives. So that's always been the core inspiration for music with me. And how moving to Gauteng happens was not necessarily because of my music and my gifting, but it was because I wanted to live with Mawami, who was in Johannesburg at the time. And I think that's very common with people as well, where you get raised by Nkulu Nogoko, and there's a parent somewhere who's working very hard to make sure that you have the opportunities that you need, or have a chance at living, which was the case with my beautiful, hardworking mom, who I respect and adore so much. So there was the opportunity to move and to live with her, which I took. And that was when I was still in school, doing a lot of competitions at Stedfords. And soon enough, that led to being able to go to an art school there. And that's when it all clicked, that this was the only thing that I really wanted to do and to be a part of. And from there, then, started going to jam sessions, writing songs more, taking the craft seriously, spending the hours practicing. But everything does start back home. But I've realized how different places have been a sense of home for me as well. And I appreciate what that is and what that means.
Did you by any chance go to the Bat Center? Because I've just realized that's like a hub for creatives. So I don't know if you went there as well, maybe for like performances, or did you go there just to watch plays or anything like that?
I actually have been meaning to have performances at the Bat Center specifically. And without going into too much detail, it wasn't able to be something that could be like accomplished and seen, but I still have high hopes to be able to plan more performances ngasekhaya, because it really is what my soul longs for, especially after releasing my sophomore album Inganekwane, and knowing that performing at home, as much as everyone is receptive to it in South Africa and around the world, I feel that there is part of that message that is directed specifically to people who hear the language and people who would relate with some of the things that I have to share. So I hope to be able to do a lot more performances, especially after the whole pandemic thing seems to take its own shape and form. But just know, privately, I'm always reaching out to spaces, but it is not an easy thing to coordinate. I was born and grew up in Ngasekhaya, but moved up to Joburg does sometimes create a disconnect, where people don't necessarily associate me with being home. Nesibongo sami sabadida abantu uthi Modiga, she must be a Zwana girl. And that's my paternal surname. So I think there's a lot of little nuances that kind of create a little bit of distance with home. But I am positive in the fact that, the love that I have for my people will be something to to share and to experience and to celebrate with them, you know.
For me, the interesting parts is it's basically everything here is interesting. But then when you mention Uzi, that transition when you moved from PMB and you go into Joburg, what was your mindset like at that point? When you moved to Joburg, did you have like a set plan in mind, or was it more like Yazi and Gekoli, my mother's there, everything else is just gonna be vibes? Or was there like a set plan in terms of what you were gonna do once you had gotten there?
Oh my goodness. So Mastosa said Goli, or when I was going to Joburg, I was still very young. I was not older than 8 or 9 years old, And at that time, I was still very much a kid. My family had gotten used to the idea of me singing for junior choir when I was still going to school as St. Nicholas. So there was that thing, there's something about this kid, but I was not in that place where I was planning anything or putting solid ideas and goals to what I wanted to do. But I did find I was gravitating to a lot of artistic explorations, even when I was still in primary school. I was auditioning for the dance group and the choir. I was auditioning for the drama department at school as well. So I naturally gravitated to that, and I really sucked at playing sports. So there was kind of no choice with regards to extramurals outside of sports. And I was like, well, I can't hold a ball, but I can hold a note. So I was still very young, but yeah, that's what my experience was. Always having something that gravitated me to the music.
It's so funny that you should say that your family was just on some, just do music and everything, just to obviously keep yourself busy. But in a way, subconsciously, or the universe was speaking that, there's something special about this child. It may not be through sports, but it will definitely be through music. And in a way, they were actually supportive of what you're doing. And I'm sure even when you speak to your family right now, they'll be like, oh God, she's a special one. Music was going to take her take her far somewhere or somehow, because we could just tell there was some linkage of somehow, but we just weren't sure as to how it was actually going to pan out. I'm sure there was something like that, Zoe.
Absolutely. And I don't think I can put it in a better kind of way. I was happy in the sense that, and I was lucky and fortunate in the sense that my family never dismissed the school plays and the choir singing. They never dismissed that. They were always interested. They were always proud. It was always this topic of the table. Would say, hey, Ngane did this and that and the next today, and I'm eternally grateful for that. I'm eternally grateful for what it is and what it means, and I think being a child, there's a lot more things I feel you are clear about. We were having a conversation, Norma, just maybe yesterday or the day before, where she was saying, Guti, younger people have old souls because they've just come into the earth maybe after being here before, so they have younger souls, and it's important for us to take them seriously when they have something to say. And I think my family's always been true to what that is. And I think it's an important thing to look at, even us as we're growing older, to see people that are younger than us and realize that there's so much wisdom and so much knowledge and a lot to learn from that as well,
Yeah, I think this is really beautiful, getting all this insight, on your journey and whatnot. And the one thing that's incredible is that many people I believe would say, being a fear and would say, okay, this is Zoe, you've gotten Anegwane out. This is what they're getting is sort of like you're still on your journey, but it's a product that's basically refined, in the public eye and whatnot. And they wouldn't really know exactly sort of what processes and what challenges you actually went through to get where you are today. So basically, what are some of those obstacles that you've come across, on your journey, and how did you sort of, how were you able to get over those and overcome and basically be at this great point that you're at right now?
Man, I think with all of us, even if you're not in the entertainment industry necessarily, you live a life that has a lot of different things that are thrown at you, you know, and you find that there's a lot of things you have to work through, even with regards to your childhood and moving along with the world and trying to be a decent human being to the people around you and to yourself, you know. And I think my life journey has not been different from that. There's a lot of healing I've had to do and I'm still doing. There's a lot of growth I've had to do and a lot of growth I'm still doing. And I'm just always trying to be as honest as I can be about who and what I am and what I stand for, and to be kind to myself and be kind to the people that I meet along the way, because life is challenging to every kind of person. But if I were to, I suppose it's very difficult to answer that question that you asked in some sense, because I feel that sometimes the way experience is to me is that one thing flows into the next, you know, one challenge flows into the next joy, flows into the next challenge. But if I were to answer it from the top of my head, I would say being able to be kind enough to allow myself to evolve and to change my mind and to grow my opinions is something that is very interesting, because I think my public brand is that of someone who has certain perspectives about all kinds of things, you know. My thing is really just to celebrate life and to celebrate people, because I know that that's a very challenging thing for all of us. And we can all relate because we are all human in that sense. But I think for me, one of the challenges is allowing my perspective to evolve, because I feel there's so much responsibility with the platform that I have. But at the same time, I am growing, I am shifting my opinions, I am learning new things, I am trying to surround myself with different kinds of people so that I remain open-minded, you know, but I still want to stick to my guns about what I believe then and there, you know. So I'd say that's, you know, one of the things that I think about. And another of the things I think about is being an independent artist, you know. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful walk. It's a very empowering walk, but it's also a very challenging walk, you know, of having to know that you have this particular message and this particular gifting that you want to share, not just for yourself, but you truly believe that it's for other people as well, so that they maybe in some other way can be able to share what you need to be receiving from them, you know. But there's a lot of very practical things that are very challenging within that space as well, you know, and trying to be brand conscious about what that is. And you know, resources, certain inner workings within the industry, gatekeeping, racism. There's a lot of things that have nothing to do with music that you have to deal with, because you decided, or it was decided for you by those that came before you, that music was your calling. There's a lot of things that have nothing to do with it that stand in the way, and those things are constant. They don't, you know, it's that kind of thing where you're constantly in a space of having to protect what that is and having to fight through all those kinds of things. But I feel I'm equipped, and I feel my bloodline has prepared me for a moment like this. It's not that I'm this empowered human being the entire time, you know. I do get disappointed, but I do know what I come from, and I choose to recognize and to step into what that is, you know.
That is very beautiful.
It is good. It's really, really beautiful. And you know, I'm also getting a sense. There's a lot of themes that you've just put out with Zoe. So when I say no, this is the theme I'm getting. But you know, being a creative, you sometimes see the underlining message that other people wouldn't be able, you know, to obviously see or even hear. And that's what makes you so unique. So, you know, from what you just spoken about, which is extremely powerful, that you've been prepared for this moment. And that was going to actually lead me on to my next question as to how have you actually handled yourself during this lockdown? And in a way, you've sort of like answered the question, Wuti. I've actually prepared myself for this moment, because through the challenges and even through the wins that I've gone through, it's prepared me for this moments, and that's why I'm able to shine even brighter, and that's why people can relate to my music on another level as well, and give me all the blessings that are obviously deserving to be mine as well. So I just want to know that from your perspective, what would you say to umuntu who is in despair, or creative that's in despair during this lockdown moment? Because even on my platform on Ithekuconnect, and Nasiphi can also justify this, because I talk to him a lot about this, is that a lot of creatives are suffering right now, whereas this sort of should be the time where they should vent out or let loose, but it's a very depressive moment for a lot of people, because obviously, number one, finances are an issue. Number two, the creativity is not there because they're not getting any motivation. So what would be your message to umuntu that is in despair right now, that doesn't have any sense of direction, that doesn't feel any sense of direction? What would be your message to them, so sort of like uplift them?
I don't even think I would be in the place to say anything inspirational. I am also going through the motions. I also have sad days. I also have days where I'm like, geez, how are we going to create a living out of this particular thing that we do? You have so many people that have all these amazing, beautiful things that they have to say about the art world. Guys, when I was listening to your music, I was in a low space. There's all this social responsibility that comes by mere fact of sharing your story and knowing that it's going to relate to someone, that it becomes very, very weird to be in a position where you don't necessarily feel like you have that same thing that people look to from you, where you are trying to find a way to motivate yourself and you don't necessarily know what the ways are, and I think what's the most challenging about the times that we're living in now is that we have a government system that is insisting on making us invisible, even though we are a billion-dollar industry where we tell people stories and we create spaces for people. And I think it's challenging. It's challenging to not be seen and yet know that it means something. And I suppose what I would then say is that I hope that all my artistic fellow beings just continue to dig into themselves and to allow themselves to exist in whatever headspace that they are in, and to know that whatever is happening is temporary. Because some of these things are very difficult to articulate. There's a lot of people that have gone from being able to tour around the world to being stuck at home, not having anything to do, having families to feed, having school fees still to pay. There are real worries. And how do you respond to real worries? Do you say everything's going to be fine? Like, what exactly do you do? And how do we then practically make everything fine? I don't know that I have the answers to that. But what I can say is that njengabantu who are alive in this world and in this time with everything that we are living through, is that we are obviously trusted with being alive in this time. And I believe that we are, whether we think so or not, equipped to handle everything that comes with being alive at this time. There's a lot of good that is happening. There's a lot of misfortunes that are happening, but we are still here. And I would like to think that means something. We are still here. And yeah, I just pray for everyone who's in a bad space to find some kind of relief, whether that is practical, whether that is emotional, mental, and to just continue relying on the fact that they are here for a reason, and that means something, not just to themselves, but to everyone else. We have to be hopeful. We have to be hopeful. And this is the fight of our lives. It's not just flesh and blood. It's not just the things we can see and all the conversations we've been fighting through from 2020 up to this point, but it's also spiritual warfare. So we have to be armed up and to realize that we are warriors for this time in the different spaces that we are, whether you are a mom at home, whether you are a singer, a news broadcaster, whatever it is that you do, whether we are Shaniela on the side of the road, we are clearly here for a very particular reason. And I hope we are all able to dig into what that is.
from what you were saying there, I get, this impression, Yoguti, a lot of the like spiritual, the spiritual side of things as well. Is that something that you would say bleeds into the music that you make? Because just from the stuff that you've just said, it's very, I feel like spiritually it's very uplifting as well. You mentioned earlier, Uguti, basically this was a gift that was passed down to you. This was already on some, like, it was written in the stars type thing and all that. Would you say, or rather, how much of an impact would you say, you know spirituality sort of has on Zoë Modiga as an artist, as a human being, and in terms of just creating music as well?
Man, I see spirit in everything. And I respect the fact, Oguti, we don't all believe in this, and so I ask for whoever doesn't believe in it to take it with a pinch of salt. I'm not the kind of person that wishes to offend is not the word, impose what it is that I believe on people, because I feel we're all in our own journey and we can change our minds and we can't change our minds, it kind of is what it is. And so I respect that. But from me personally, I subscribe to everything being spirit. And I think that keeps me accountable with a lot of things, I think if you see another human being as a spirit, you just relate, I suppose, with more respect with regards to what they are. Never mind the religious beliefs and all kinds of things that we can also be governed by. But I think if we just take it to the basics of seeing the next person, seeing the world around us as spirit, we're able to relate with a lot more respect, And hopefully, if you don't subscribe to that, you still find that respect when you look around you, when you look outside of yourself. And so for me, knowing that everyone, or believing that everyone is a spiritual being, makes what I think my purpose is in music that much more important, because if I know that I'm being led to sing messages that mean something to people on a spiritual level, that to me seems like so much more of a responsibility. That for me seems like, as much as I want you to hear my music and my story, I also have a reverence for whoever it is that is listening, which I think is a very important thing. But I don't think I'm chosen. I feel that we are all chosen, but it's also your responsibility to choose yourself. It's your responsibility to be curious about yourself, and who may have prayed for you to be here and to be existing the way that you do, and to know that you're part of something bigger, and I think if we all know, and hopefully we all believe we are part of something bigger, then we realize that we are all essentially interconnected. Something I'm saying will mean something to you, and something you're saying will mean something to me. And it's not just this platform that I get to be given, but it's us recognizing that we hold spaces for each other, But yeah, for me, I suppose then my way of holding space for anyone who's listening is through music, if it connects to you and it makes sense and resonates to you, which I hope it does. But if it doesn't, someone else will resonate with you in a way that is true to you. But yeah, for me, I hope to speak the truth and be about the truth. It is less popular. It is dismissed a lot more, but it is necessary. It is necessary.
That's so true. Like I can't dispute that. That's so true. That it also goes on to the saying that the truth will set you free, and that just from the conversations that we're having, that you're a person that lives within the truth and that says the truth, and you feel free from the truth as well, through not only your music but also the way that you live as well. So one can definitely resonate with what you're saying, and I feel that also the huge thing that lockdown has also taught us is be honest with yourself. Accountability literally just hits us like a slap on the face, because a lot of people were going through their very, very emotional states because they had to face up a lot of truths that they put up, sort of like put on the shelf before, but because of the lockdown, that had to basically say that no, you're staying at home whether you like it or not, and this is the situation that you're going to deal with. It's so funny that you talk about the truth, because that's exactly what everyone had to go with, whether they liked it or not. So it's also good that they had your music to also dwell on the truth that they're dealing with, because in a way music is also a healer. It's just weird that you're talking about it, but it's so true at the same time.
Absolutely. And I think it's so beautiful that we live in a time of being able to have all these important discussions, and to be able to hold a lot of things and a lot of people and a lot of systems accountable. The conversations around the LGBTQIA plus community, the Black community, the female community, there's been so many different kinds of conversation, the femicides, there's been so many conversations that have needed to be spoken about, and that we as humans didn't give each other the time to be able to speak through these things, because we could always dismiss it with something else. Yes, there's femicide, but my movie is coming out next week. We definitely lived those kinds of lives where other things just seem to take a lot more priority. But because there was a time for us to just pause and to think and to speak, we've been able to actually think, pause, and speak, and consider and educate ourselves if we need to, and be open-minded to other people's problems, even though we don't necessarily feel connected to them. And I feel we've all had to take turns with that, which is a beautiful thing, to be able to see someone and to empathize outside of personal experience, or to have your opportunity to tell a story that is true, and a story that resonates to you, and a struggle that resonates to you. So thank goodness for that. And I would not have been responsible for curating my album into this experience. But again, I feel Spirit made it possible, because the Spirit knew that there was going to be a time for truth, and that there would be a song necessary for that truth. There would be a conversation necessary for that truth. There would be, all these things, even outside of my music, that are happening to facilitate more of these conversations about that truth.
We're going to be transitioning with eMbali, and if you want to learn more about Zoë Modiga, we've got more content coming through. Do enjoy the track.
And we are back.
Pew, 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 pew.
It is what it is. We back, baby.
It's okay. Then jumping right into it, to anyone who was listening, we were playing eMbali by Zoë Modiga. As I said, it's a song that has really touched me. And I think it resonates. It goes hand in hand with some of the things you were saying, Zoe, about spiritual upliftment and uplifting abantu. That song on its own, it speaks volumes. In terms of motivation, mostly konithemba, with some on that spiritual tip. I really love that about it. So just taking from that context now and just looking at your whole album, Inganekwane and whatnot, I'd like for us to just dive into that a bit more. What was your sort of psyche? What was your state of mind, going into, creating the album?
Man, so prior to Inganekwane, I'd released my debut album, Yellow the Novel. And when I released Yellow the Novel, I was straight out of college. Unfortunately, I was kicked out, so I was not able to continue, but I was doing jazz studies at the time. And fortunately enough, I still had access to the actual department. So I was able to play a lot of the music and realize the idea of self-reflection and all of those kinds of things with that particular album. And we'd been performing for 3 years, having all these beautiful opportunities to explore, being self and reflecting. And in the true nature of art imitating life, I was self-reflecting at the time that all of this was happening. And I found myself really being drawn to the idea of being umuntu, of being a Black person and the experiences that we go through, whether you're in the country or the continent or the diaspora. There's this certain understanding, and I suppose that is the spirit of it. We are one person and we are one thing, and we have had a lot of beautiful ways that we've contributed to the world around us, but we also carry a lot of sadness and burdens as well, and we'd have different conversations with different people. And for some odd reason, in my debut album. And it was one of the few Zulu songs that were in there. And I'd find that audiences would really gravitate to that song. So much so that abantu abaningi would ask me, man, Zoe, you really need to do a lot more and really tap into that. It's really gorgeous, And I was really very, very insecure about my Zulu writing, particularly. As much as I was born and raised in Pietermaritzburg, eMbali, the idea of being able to move around a lot, which is what we did as a family, really allowed me to create home in different places, but also to kind of have a confused sense of identity, As much as this Vagasha and we would go back home, there was this thing of me not feeling adequate enough, or not feeling I had enough hold on the language enough to be able to explore telling stories through it. And I take my writing very, very seriously, because I feel it's important to do justice to that story that you want to tell in the best way that you can possibly tell it. But when Kutazwa, no, man, you're just being silly, man. Write the damn songs. And then I wrote the damn songs, and the damn songs came, And I was also so pleasantly surprised. When you are in your own corner and you are getting these beautiful downloads from spirits to be able to share with people. It's when you are singing these songs with people that you realize what they mean and what they are. And I feel then that's what became the case with Inganekwane, And Inganekwane was really just to take ownership of language and to be affirmed, even though my sense of identity is something I've struggled with. I know that appears to me who feel the same way. It may be through language, it may be through all kinds of things. Amasigo practices, different things that go into being a Black body, and I think it's an important conversation to have so that we're able to conquer these fears and to realize that we are making them bigger giants than what they need to be, and through this album, I've been able to be a scholar again, in the sense of learning about where I come from and who I am, and to be proud of that, and to be proud even of the fact that I'm still learning. It's not a destination that I've arrived at, but to also realize that we are all having these conversations as Black bodies all over the world, and to know that we are contributing to uplifting each other and to saying, "Siyabonana," we actually see each other, even though our experiences are not necessarily all identical. There's a lot of parallels to that. And I'm proud that we can love on ourselves in that way.
Before I pass on to Uzama as well, I just a bit of a shout out to you for making it so diverse. You know, like the example I was making with Umdali and how spiritual on its spiritual sort of aspects. I want to give you a shout out on Ilontuzane, Abantu, where you say what's in is funny. Shout out to you. I feel like that is a different take. It's a different approach as well in terms of, you know, sort of like when it comes to us, you know, being or the black child and whatnot, and all that, it's a different take and a different approach to something spiritual as well, which means everything is inclusive here. And I feel it's one of the things that can make you and your music and Inganekwane as a whole so relatable, because there's something for everyone. There's something everyone can take from it, yabo. And so much like for people who believe in the Bible, Uguti, you know, there's an answer for everything, you know, for the different challenges and whatever. So I feel like in a musical sense, now you've brought about a body of work that, you know, basically caters for basically abantu abaningi, and it's very wide open in that sense. So shout out to you for that one. I had to get that out of the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think we are all wide open, njengabantu abamnyama, you know. We are not like this one-dimensional idea. I would like to think the album celebrates exactly that. You know, the fact that it's open and you see it as that is because we are exactly that. We carry so many different narratives, but we are still amazing and we are still doing the damn thing.
Listen, the reason why I just had to keep quiet was because you would have heard me say amen, hallelujah to what you were saying the whole time. Literally was just like, yes, honey, yes, I am here for all of this, you know. And it's so, you know, it's so important, the point that you just brought up now, that, you know, as abantu bamnyama, we sometimes have such huge identity issues, and instead of being empowered and coming together, because when you look at it, the different types of cultures that are out there from Black people, especially like within South Africa, we're such a diverse country. So you have AmaZulu, AmaXhosa, Lesotho, and everything like that. There's such different cultures, but there's this underlining thing of, you know what, at the end of the day, we're Black, and there's certain similarities that each of the cultures have that is just so beautiful. And, you know, it's so funny because, you know, there was an issue a while back where a certain rapper had said his album was of a certain culture, and a lot of people had disputed that and said that, well, how is it that you can say that you're this type of culture but you don't represent it? Culture evolves. You can't pinpoint and say to this person, no, this is, you see the way that you're doing it, it's wrong. You can't say that because there's a lot of dimension happening into it. And it also falls back into the theme of what you had put out within your album as well. You know, I was looking at your visuals as well, and I was just, in my own points of view, anyone can also, you know, sort of like look at it in another way. But when I was looking at your visual album of Inganekwane, I was looking at it as usesibayeni, and then you're just standing in the middle of it. And that's one thing that I've realized, that us as Black people, there's so much noise happening that sometimes you need to stand in the midst of it and just stay calm and just be one with yourself, because we are so critical towards one another. If you don't speak Zulu properly, that means you're not Black, but otherwise I'm able to practice other things of being Black, and that's so unfair. It's such a hard thing. And even as being a creative, it's such a hard thing. You'd want to be a part of, maybe, you know, doing Zulu things, but because maybe you grew up in a predominantly white environment, people will dismiss that. And that's very wrong, because the guys that you're working with, you probably the answer to people's questions, and people don't realize that. So it's the same thing with what you're saying now, that, you know, someone may resonate with what I'm doing. And we definitely, Nasiphi, myself, and other people that are listening to this definitely resonated with your music. And it's so weird that you had difficulty, you know, believing in your craft, whereas another person is like, Zoe is perfection in what she's doing. You know, there's lots of different aspects into it. So the point that you just brought up is so, it's close to home, because a lot of us are actually struggling with identity because of other people's insecurity. Whereas when you're one with yourself, like I said before, going back to the visual of your album, or when you're one with yourself, that's when you're able to find yourself, and that's where people can resonate with your music.
Absolutely. And just on what you're saying about this particular artist that you're talking about, you know, I think obviously there's so many different ways to look at this, you know, to look at any kind of identity conversations. You can be what they would call the devil's advocate. You can be on any side, and you can look at it from all these different points of view, you know. But what I took from that kind of situation was that there is someone who clearly finds pride in identifying a certain kind of way, and they're telling a story that is relating to a lot of people who see themselves identifying a certain kind of way, or identifying that way and relating to that, you know. And I find that it becomes important for different people to tell their identity stories, because it bridges the gap. Because yes, khona abantu abakhule emakhaya, abasazi isintu, abanesiZulu nje, that speak the most amazing Zulu when you listen to them. And then there are those of us who long for that and who would want nothing but that, and who are constantly asking loved ones and family about all kinds of identity related things. But our road is not necessarily the same. You know, maybe you came from a family that subscribed to Christianity and thought that African spiritualism was something to be demonized. Maybe you came from the kind of family that was raised in a predominantly Western space, but you're still curious about where it is that you come from. And it may not necessarily be the easiest to get those answers, because the people you're asking don't know either, you know? So if we're able to then share our different perspectives and our different identity curiosity, then we're able to bridge that gap, and we're able to work from that point. And I would encourage people that are a lot more knowledgeable about all of these things to be a lot more loving about how we interact with each other in those things, you know? Because I've heard it too many times before. You know, they've neglected their identity. Yes, whatever the case may be, but I've had to assimilate in a space of a different African language, so to speak, you know, which is not predominantly is Zulu. So now you have to learn how to communicate anew, and you're not able to then practice the way that you speak, because the people you're speaking to, that is not their native language, you know. So it's thick, you know, and I think we need, as Black people, to be very patient with each other in the way that we engage and open amongst ourselves, and even with the diaspora, you know, because there's a lot of conversations around that, you know, where we can just be so vile in the way that we respond to certain things, you know. We are very lucky being in the continent to be able to have ugogo, and even if it's not your grandmother, it may be someone else's grandmother, or it may be someone who's done African studies, or whatever the case may be. But imagine feeling a lot more displaced by knowing that you come from a certain continent and you live in a space where you are the minority and everything is pretty much against you. You still thrive in a system that was not created for you. And we need to be able to bridge that gap as well, to say, Yazini, even if you don't have your name and your surname and your identity and your language and your spirit and your spirituality because it was taken from you, we are still here as the Zoes of the world. We are still here as the Nasipis of this world. We are still here to be able to facilitate these conversations and to say, actually, we are also displaced in some kind of way because we have had to deal with the things that we have. But let's have the conversation and let's learn from each other. And it's not easy, it's not simple, because everyone, I mean, there is a certain kind of pride that comes with our identity. But to be able to approach that beautiful pride in such a way that is patient to everyone's experience, which is different, is also something that I think we need to lean into as Abantu, you know?
Yeah, for me, the one thing that I loved from your whole journey of, you know, the album that you made, it definitely had to, the visuals had to stand out for me. I was just telling Nasiphi that, wow, the visuals were amazing. The way that you laid it out, it was just like you had a conversation with yourself. Then you're like, okay, guys, listen, this is what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And it definitely was the reflection of your growth as well musically, and also you yourself as Uzo. We would say, this is how I would want it to be played out. From your perspective, what made you say, I actually want to be in the middle of a crawl and I'm going to wear this fur thing, stand naked, sort of, and just do the things that need to be done? What made you actually decide
the
that?
things, the parts
Make the
that
pots.
need to be potted? So it's incredible. The idea of the crow, Noguma nenkomo esibayeni, actually came from an experience growing up. As much as I am very, very proud to be coming from eMaritzburg, I was raised by ugogo nomkhulu, but I would visit my father, who was based at Bizana, actually, sorry, Kwampisi. And there'd be a lot of cattle there. I would also visit my paternal grandmother there as well. And when I was very, 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 very young, I used to really love the idea of how bright the stars were in Makaya. You know, they are brighter than they are anywhere else. Maybe it's because there are no city lights, but there's just a certain pure thing in the air, you know, about being there. And one of the things I really enjoyed doing in Mini was to just stare at cows, like for very, very, very long periods of time when I was very young. And Ugokwam would actually look at me like I was a crazy person, you know, but in the most endearing way. You know, I'm sure in her mind she was like, hey, Lena, there's something about this lady that I'm not understanding, this little lady. But I just loved cows. I loved the idea of them eating grass and later on finding out Uguti Mabedluchani, they actually chew the cud, you know. So abapangi, they don't swallow and bite at things quickly, but they take their time in that, you know. And I thought it was such a beautiful metaphor for us as Black people, as our story, you know. And also going into the whole idea of cows meaning so many things to us as Black people, or not all Black people, let me not say all Black people, but I find that there's a lot of relation to cattle in the sense of food, in the sense of spiritual practices, dowry, amasiko, you know, spiritual practices, and even the idea of wealth, because if you have cows, that means you have land, you know. So I thought it was just such a beautiful symbol of what a beautiful world would look like for us, a world where we see our spirits, where we are clothed, you know, whether physically and otherwise, you know, where we have the wealth that we are deserving of, where we have the land we are deserving of. So I just thought it was a good image to go with. And I had a beautiful team, Mutatenda Chidora, who was the photographer, Unewe Sarat, you know, Ntabiseng Mulebeledi, who were the stylists, and Larry, who was the assistant. And Utedi Somonaheng, who was also just taking the videography. So I had all these beautiful people who were also expressing their identity through this particular story that I had to tell, you know, because I could have had this entire thing, but if I didn't have those people with me, I wouldn't have been able to realize it. So we were all just creating this idea, you know, with all our different identities, whether you are you know, whether you are from Zimbabwe, whether you are Sotho speaking, you know, wherever it is that you are, because it was such a diverse Black team, for us to be able to come together in that way was so beautiful, you know. But yeah, I'm always so interested to hear the different ways that people look at that album cover. There was one person who thought I was disrespectful because umuntu wesifazane noma intombazane is not supposed to be inside isibaya, you know. And I even saw someone replying to that, saying that part of the conversation is then taking up that space, you know. And obviously I'm not trying to be disrespectful about creating space for these conversations, but I just think us being able to have the conversations already so beautiful. And I walk with as much respect as I possibly can be, but I'm always so excited by how different people own, you know, the visual experience of the album, and it teaches me as well, you know, and I'm excited to hear how people continue to engage with it.
You know, just on that point, actually, I always like to tell myself, Woody, any like good piece of art, you know, is bound to strike up conversation and basically have different opinions and different views on it, and that's just, you know, an indicator. It should just show, Wuti, you know, you've made an impact, and that the art that you're creating, you know, is intriguing enough to get people talking. It's like Zama, when she was mentioning Wuti, yeah, but like how she perceived it, you know, with the cows and everything like that, and then that certain person was in and or that was their perspective. The mere fact, as you were saying, Wuti, these people are striking up conversation about what you're doing. Means with the actual art, you know, has substance to it and value to it, and I think no one can actually take that away from you. I just looking at basically, you know, your success as an artist, looking at the awards that you've got, you know, you obviously got the eMbali award, you know, you've got, you know, the Zama award nominations and whatnot, in 2018 and all that. Is this something that you actually anticipated when you were starting out in your journey? Did you ever think one day we'll table one day and you'll win like a award for eMbali award, or I'll be nominated for a Zama?
You know, I'm going to take the road less traveled and say yes.
Wow.
I will say yes.
Bold.
I
Yes,
anticipated
here for that
in the
energy.
sense.
Nice.
I anticipated in the sense of knowing the work that I've put in, and of knowing what I come from my bloodline, and knowing whom I was created by and who I believe I was created by, and knowing that the message is there to resonate, you know, and it's there to mean something, not just to me and my false eyelashes and my red lips, but it's there to mean something to the people that listen to it, you know. And I've always been very, 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 very ambitious about my goals and what it is that I want. Sometimes I choose to share that, sometimes I choose not to, although I find a lot more power in not sharing that and see it actually be realized, you know. But at the same time, me expecting it does not mean I think I'm all that in a bag of chips, you know. I just think it's beautiful to be able to work hard and to create from a space of honesty with your entire being, for you to have sweat, to cry over it, to laugh over what it is that you do, and to be seen for that, you know. One of the craziest things, actually, even with the eMbali award, was that I was actually booked for that particular award show. I did not know I was going to get that award. I was just backstage busy cramming some lyrics, and we were supposed to be performing in a few minutes. We have been flown down to Durban. Jay, you know, but it's pity. We were putting makeup on. Next thing, I'm asked to come on stage, and I'm told that this is what happened. And it was an incredible honor. Would I have seen that? Absolutely not. You know, am I grateful for it? Absolutely, I am. And do I want to believe that I should anticipate more such opportunities? I would love that to be the case, you know, because one thing I've seen, even when it comes to people who want to deal with themselves in a way that is of standard, in a way that is excellency, is that they die brokenhearted. You know, all our great legends are underappreciated, and they get more posthumous awards than they are recognized in their lives, you know. So I think part of me wanting to own these accolades as they come is to kind of also be like, yes, but this is how it should be, you know. If I am a good writer, tell me I'm a good writer. If I'm a good broadcaster, tell me I'm a good broadcaster, you know. If I'm impactful and I have a beautiful sludge podcast, tell me I have a beautiful sludge podcast. If I'm holding things to a higher standard, tell me, because I know that there's a lot of young people like myself who do work hard, who do put in the hours, and who just need to be in a position of being able to be fueled by the idea of just being seen. Because all we do is see people. In these conversations, someone is listening and they are seen. So see us, so that we are not bitter. South Africa doesn't see us. South Africa only sees mediocre, you know, so that we actually just create from a space of abundance and knowing what we are and knowing what we mean. You know, and I think that's not just a me thing. I think it's something we all need to expect, you know, even from media spaces and even in corporate spaces. If you're contributing to that space, you need to be awarded for what that is. You know, you need to be seen for what that is, so that you contribute from a space of abundance. You know, if you tell me I mean something, I'll get to believe it a lot more, and I know I'll be digging a lot deeper in the way that I
Yeah.
write and in the stories that I wish to tell. You
Mm.
know, so
Yeah.
it only makes things even that much more magical.
No, definitely resonate with what you're saying. A thing that I always say to people: give credit to where it is deserved. You know, because a lot of people, it's so funny you say that, because even the platforms that we're doing, Nasip would say we're giving credit to people that rightfully deserve it, but not only that, telling their stories, because storytelling is such a beautiful value that people sometimes underestimate. It's so important to carry on telling people, and also telling people the right type of history, because anyone can create history, but obviously there's only one type of history that has the truth in it. So when it comes from the horse's mouth, or it comes from that, you know, place that of truth, people will understand that person, or people will understand that event. And it's always essential to always try and do that the best way that you can. So yeah, definitely, again, it goes along with the theme of you speaking your truth at the end of the day.
And if you give me an award, I mean, I'm also not silly enough to think I may stand alone, you know. Konabantu that I come from as well, there's knowledge that I've had to learn as well, whether that was through Umambusi Mhlongo, Ubab Madala Kunene, you know, Mam Smokile Khumalo, Mam Gcina Mhlophe. I know you know, Ubab Credo Motwa, I know I don't come from nothing. So in me taking up my space and me saying, yes, I'm deserving of this, it's not just me saying, me, na Zoë Modiga, I'm deserving of this. It's that, yes, I want us to be curious about these conversations. And I also am a learner in this process as well. And I also have answers that I need from these particular beautiful people, you know. Abosisthandiswa Mazwai, you know. And this is all to name a few. These are people that I get all this knowledge from. So if you see me, you see them, because I feel that what they've contributed saw me, and that's how I was able to see myself as fit enough to be able to tell my end of the story and my perspective. So it's interconnected. It's interconnected. It really just is.
Yeah, it's also weird that you're saying that, because it was actually going to bring up the next point that I had, that unfortunately, like due to COVID and other things that, you know, have made our legends like pass away and everything like that, it has actually brought on new people, Abafana Njengao, you know, Elaine, the works, the people who are the country in their own respective rights. And now these are the new, like I said before, culture always evolves. And this is just a prominent example of that. Abantu abafana njengoMadala Kunene that are still alive, that are even able to say that, no, guys, we'd like to work with you, because one day in a week going to go away. But because of the knowledge, like you said, because of the knowledge that we have, that we've imparted onto you, at least would say, you know, it's been imparted, and other people and generations will carry on with it. And that's why it's important that you know, we just carry on with the way that we're operating, and appreciate the arts that are happening right now at the end of the day. So man, I also want to just say props to you and carrying on with the work that you're doing. We truly are appreciative of it.
Thank you so much, Sam. I really, really appreciate that. I really do.
So basically, rounding this off, you know, what message do you have for the people that have been following you, people who have been supporting you from the jump? Yeah, basically, this is your time to sort of address them and how you feel and all that there.
Before I actually answer that, I would love to say that thank you to you guys as the Sludge Underground podcast for having me. You know, if it wasn't for entities like yourselves, it would mean that all that we do is undocumented, you know. But by mere fact that we're able to have these conversations means we actually all exist, you know, and that's really, really beautiful. So I'm grateful to both of you and the team, and yeah, just send love into what you guys do, and maybe continue to fight the good fight. The marathon continues. But I'd like to say to everyone that has been following me, thank you so much for being generous with yourselves and lending an ear to what it is that I have to say, what it is that I think, what it is that I share, what it is that I write. I'm grateful that for some of you, it's been, oh, wow, she's really great on stage. You know, for some of you, My music has been the soundtrack to your lives. You know, for some of you, there's that one song that you have to repeat when you listen to it. However it is that we've been able to connect and relate, and for however long, I'm so entirely grateful. What you may not realize is that you simply listening to me, listening to my music and what it is that I have to say is what gives me my purpose. So you have so much power in your hands to be able to give me my purpose. And I don't take that lightly, and I'm grateful for that, because that's what I wake up to do every single day. So thank you for giving me that gift. And I hope that my music continues to be a gift, continues to be a friend, continues to hold space and conversations, continues to make you laugh and dance if you don't want to think about anything at all, you know. But I hope to be here for a very long time, and for as long as the good Lord will have me. And I hope that we can share more memories and more joy, because we need that. And congratulations to all of us for being here in this very, very crazy world. But yeah, the marathon continues, and blessings to all of you and everything that you do. May you see yourself, and may you, you know, believe in yourself and accomplish higher heights, you know, and do what speaks to your soul. And I'll be on my corner, on my little side, cheering you on. If I know, if I don't, my music hopefully will be cheering you on. And I'll also be doing my own thing on the side as well. But yeah, blessings to all of you, and thank you.
One day, if you could just consider running for president, because damn, like damn, what you that was so powerful. That was so powerful.
It was.
It's like, yeah, and it's like, you know, you'd expect to like from an artist, it's like, oh guys, thank you for supporting me. Yeah, keep cool, new music coming out, whatever. But this was like a whole like speech, and it was intriguing from start to finish. I feel like you could give Ramaphosa a run for his money. Just saying. Just saying.
Hey, yeah.
So now in closing, no problem. So your handles, hashtag. In closing, your handles, where can people get in touch with you if they want to get a hold of you and follow you on social media?
Yes, family. So if you'd like to keep in touch with me and to be a part of my world and for us to do our thing, you can follow me on @ZOE_MODIGA on Twitter. That's Zoe_Modiga. On Facebook, it's ZOE_MODIGA, Zoë Modiga Musician Band page. On Instagram, I love those Instagram lives, so you should definitely go to my Instagram, @Zoë Modiga. And yeah, let's connect.
Oh, yeah, that is solid. And thank you once again, Zoe, for joining myself and Zama. This was a really massive privilege for us, getting to learn about you firsthand. It was an incredible experience that money can't buy. Thank you to your team as well, whoever I've been communicating with in the emails. Thank you to them, you know, for allowing us to interact like this. It's really been incredible. I've learned a lot about you, and I'm super keen, and Zama as well. We're both keen on what's to come, and we believe that just bigger things are coming for you in future. So basically, in closing, guys, it's been another Sludge Underground episode together with Zama from Ithekuconnect. Obviously, our episodes are available on SoundCloud, Apple Music, Spotify. We are Sludge Underground Podcast. On Facebook, Sludge Underground. On Instagram, @Sludge Underground. And on Twitter, @Sludge031. Zama, who are you online? Your handles, Ithekuconnect. Where can people get in touch?
On everything, it's literally just Ithekuconnect, except for Twitter, it's Ithekuconnect01. Yeah, man. And thank you again, Zoe, for this beautiful opportunity. It was definitely a conversation that needed to be had. And I hope that everyone that's listening, thank you so much also to Sludge Underground. Nasiphi, thank you so much for this conversation. I hope that everyone that listened learns a thing or two about themselves, but also not only about themselves, but also about Zoe. So to many more. And yeah, man, let's just, like you said, the marathon continues.
Oh yes, Sabonga family, blessings. Thank you so much.
Zoe, in closing, what's your favorite track on Ingwane, so we can close out? I was biased in the middle. I chose, but I think this is an opportunity for you to choose. That is your favorite on Ingwane.
Ooh. This is unfair, first and foremost. I would just like to say. This is very unfair, guys. But in terms of right now, either Isekazini or Uthando.
Let's go for Uthando because listen to that.
Lovely.
I love it as well. Okay, guys. Until next time, you're going to be listening to Uthando by Zoë Modiga. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, it's bye for now.
Soze,